Greetings, dear viewers. I'm Quill and welcome back to Katawa Shoujo. I can immediately tell from the envelope that it's not about official matters of any sort. Someone actually wrote me an old-fashioned, handwritten paper letter. Who bothers doing something like that in this day and age anyway? Yet, as unlikely as the prospect of receiving one sounds, there is definitely a letter lying on my desk. The classes for the day are over. Still feeling pretty full from the big lunch that I had unexpectedly eaten at the cafeteria, I returned to my dorm, planning on finishing my homework and probably skipping dinner, or at least just eating light. I feel like I need to eat less than I used to. Maybe I don't use that much energy now, that I don't do much beyond reading. However, the letter on my desk has naturally caught my interest. It's the first piece of mail I've received here at Yamaku, so it'd feel special even if it wasn't something as rare as a handwritten letter. What causes me even more trepidation is the name of the sender, written neatly on the back of the envelope. I'm afraid I can't read any of the 3 Japanese alphabets. Iwanako. But I had a feeling that might be the case. I have no idea why she would write to me. I haven't been in contact with anyone from my old school since I transferred, and Iwanako is the last person I'd expect to want to write me a letter. The last time I saw Iwanako was terribly awkward, embarrassingly so. She came to my hospital room, peeled me an apple out of courtesy, and then we practically sat in silence for half an hour. She said goodbye, and didn't even look me in the eye when she closed the door. It might have been a natural end to the series of visits that were probably pretty painful for both of us. Every time she visited me in the hospital, I wanted to talk to her, but something stopped me every time. Every time that I didn't speak made the next time even harder. Iwanako always had this aura of fragility around her, as if she'd shatter into pieces at the slightest disturbance. Initially, I think it might have been that delicacy that attracted me to her, but after what happened back then, it felt as if she really had shattered. She looked so sad that I didn't want to say anything that might upset her, and I never could figure out the right words to say. I told her that it wasn't her fault. She nodded, and I really think she understood that if it hadn't been that, then sooner or later something else would have made my heart give out. Yet she looked so hopelessly sad every time she opened that door and entered my room. So I never managed to say the things I wanted to say. In the end, that might have hurt her even more. Carefully, I open the envelope and draw out the folded letter from within. Dear Hisao, how are you? I hope you are well and happy at your new school. Everyone here misses you. Almost all of our second-year class got put together in Class 3-1 for the final year, so we're pretty comfortable right from the beginning of the year. I'm sure you would have been assigned to this class as well. The mood among the third years seems to be very anxious about the final exams, even though they are so far away. The teachers are badgering us about it all the time. Even old Mr. Tachibana, who is, by the way, our homeroom teacher this year. Would you believe it? I was sure he'd retire after our second year, but here he is, nagging everyone about studying for exams. I think things like that are the main reason why the mood among the third years is so nervous. I must admit that I'm somehow losing confidence in myself as well, even though I've always fared reasonably well in exams. It's so weird to think we're already seniors, isn't it? Time has really flown past. I wonder where it went. The new first years seem so young and somehow really innocent. I keep wondering if I was like them in my first year. I've been feeling nostalgic like this for the whole first trimester. There are other things I want to say. I'm writing to you because I felt that there are things I should have said after the incident back in winter. I really regret that I wasn't able to say them in person, and I have no excuse for it. The truth is, the times when I visited you at the hospital made me worried about you. I'm not talking about your health. You seemed to become more distant and disheartened. It was natural after something like that happened, I'm sure, but somehow I got the feeling that you had given up something back then. Happiness, maybe? I wanted to somehow express my feelings, but the words didn't come to me. I couldn't say anything to comfort you. I am really sorry for not being able to support you when it mattered the most, even though I like you so much. At least now, I can finally be more honest. If I could go back to those quiet days in February and March, I'd tell you not to give up on yourself. That's what I would say. Maybe you wouldn't have drifted so far away if I had just said something. I hope you've managed to get back on your feet on your own. Now that the distance between us is so physical, it also feels more final, somehow. I wonder if we will meet again. Perhaps it's for the best if we don't. Still, if you would like to correspond with me, by all means, write me back. I'd very much like to hear about your new school and how you're doing. I wish you all the best. Sincerely, Iwanako. After finishing reading the letter, I fold it like it was and place it on my desk. I don't know what to think of this. I feel empty and confused. Why now? After all this time? Just yesterday I decided that I can't let myself stay like this. That I'd tried to get on top of my own life. Reading this letter just reminds me of what could have been. Of course, I wish that I didn't have to be here. I'd want to be in the same class with Iwanako again. Maybe we would talk every day now and go on dates. My life didn't go like that. I didn't really need to be reminded of this. Iwanako needed to write this letter for her own sake, and I'm glad for her that she could. But it would have been better if I hadn't read it. Of course she's right. I thought of the same thing yesterday. I had fallen into a pit of depression and now have to try to climb out. I rip out a page from my notebook, and after a moment of thinking how to frame my words, write out a short reply to Iwanako. Now's probably not the right time. You can take a day or two, man. I find it difficult to be really honest to her, but at least I try to appear somewhat convincing. I don't write to her about Yamaku at all. I doubt she will write me again, but I don't feel at all sad about it. I fold my own letter to her, as I have no envelope. And as I have no envelope, set it next to Iwanako's. I'll mail it to her later. Then I lie back on my bed, looking at the monotone gray ceiling. A bird sings outside of my window, and a sudden gust of wind flutters my curtains. The summer afternoon feels still, as if time had stopped for a brief moment. I think about all the things I've lost and will never regain. Ouch. Yeah, that's rough, man. I've been there. Thus, the languid days of mid-June pass by. I mail my letter to Iwanako and receive no reply. Having decided to ditch the old me, I start observing my fellow students even closer than I did before, hoping to understand how other people cope with their own issues. I start seeing things I didn't before, and it makes me wonder if I'd been wrong twice. Superficially, everyone is abnormal, yet so strikingly normal that it shocked me at first. I admired the way my new schoolmates turned my prejudices around just like that, simply by being themselves. Now that I've gotten used to it, I began noticing other kinds of tones in the people surrounding me every day. There is this soft, numb sadness all around me. You might be projecting. I can see the effort everyone has to make just to get through the day, and how it weighs on their shoulders like it weighs on mine. But again, that's the burden of life. That's just the way the world is. Even the brightest smile is just slightly subdued. Every outburst of annoyance just slightly dampened. It's subtle, but it's definitely there. I think what you are seeing, Hisao, is consideration and not pity. And patience and acceptance rather than... what word am I looking for? Begrudging acceptance? Some other synonym for that thing, for begrudging acceptance that it's not coming to mind. I think Hisao is projecting. I try to think what it means, what I can learn from others. I wonder if, deep down, everyone is as lost as I am. Is there even one person in here who has truly found peace? I start to feel doubtful about myself once again. I really think Hisao is projecting. If you take your hand and you touch 20 random items and they all feel wet, which is the more likely scenario? That you have randomly touched 20 wet items, or that your hand is wet? Think about it. I can't decide whether these people are happy, unhappy, or if they've just learned to cope and now live a life in an unfeeling limbo like I did all spring. Definitely projecting. I escape from these feelings into the towering piles of books I carry to my room from Yuko's sanctuary. After realizing that this will just shut me down even more, I start going to the art club rooms more often, usually whenever I can. Reen, too, seems to spend more time in there than in her own classroom. I've often seen her totter towards the door at the very end of our corridor. That wooden door in the room behind it, smelling of paint and paper, seemed to mean more to her than the rest of the world combined. She says she has special permission to use the room, which I don't doubt at all. I don't think Nomiya would deny Reen anything. He seems to dote on her like an uncle upon a favorite niece. The object of his affection, however, has no favorites. She says she appreciates the teacher a lot for going the extra mile for her sake. But even when she says that, her expression is the same as always. It's as if she was talking about a particularly unremarkable rock that she saw the other day. I can't really figure out their relationship. Reen doesn't seem to let anyone close. I don't think even Emmy could say she's crossed the gap that seems to separate Reen from the rest of the world. This part, though, I don't think he's projecting. She really does seem to have raised aloofness to a glorious art form. I don't understand it. She seems so indifferent, yet so passionate at the same time. Somewhere, the school bells ring the last call of the day. I realize I've been zoning out for who knows how long. Dazed, I sit up straighter, trying to look as inconspicuous as possible. The pungent smells of linseed oil and turpentine mix in my nostrils as I draw a deep breath. I feel drowsy and lightheaded. It's already this late, and a few club members left early, so it's just me, Reen, the teacher, and 2 other girls who are also about to leave. Ooh, look at what she's working on. Reen is sitting to my right, slowly working on a painting while I'm idling the time away. I don't think she realizes I've been watching her this whole time. With a nimble move of her delicate ankle, she dips the brush into crimson paint and presses it lightly onto the canvas. A stain spreads around, as if the brush was bleeding. Her progress is slowed down to a crawl. But now I've learned that this is dangerous for her technique, for the paint must not be allowed to dry before she's finished. It occurs to me that I am literally watching paint dry, yet somehow I'm not feeling bored, despite spacing out just now. Most of the time, the art club is very relaxed and freeform, apart from the times when Nomiya gets really excited about some technique or style he wants to teach us about. Everyone is free to pursue their own interests. Lacking one, I keep floating around without a direction. I try this and that, but nothing really leaves me with a deeper impression. Not to mention that I don't seem to have a special knack for anything. Well, I did get praise for my attempt at watercolors, and I felt pretty good about that myself, but that's it. I suppose it's to be expected. I joined the art club mostly on a whim, after all. I'm thinking that maybe I should quit the club, if it's going to be this pointless. But there's nothing really wrong with pointlessness, and I can't exactly say I'm unhappy. Unsatisfied, maybe, but I've got only myself to blame for that. As the pair of girls exit the clubroom with a cheerful bye-bye, Nomiya stands up from his desk. His chair scoots back with a loud screech that breaks the harmony of this quiet afternoon. He taps a pile of papers in his hands twice against the tabletop in order to straighten them, then stretches his back. I have a faculty meeting to attend, so I can't say. I have to do some paperwork later, so if you want to stay, we can talk then. Sorry about this. There are 2 people here, but he's really talking to only one of us. Nomiya spends extra hours of his time mentoring Reen after official club hours are over, and I'll bet he'd like to discuss his plan of getting Reen's art into a gallery a little more. It's all right. I think I'll probably be here, but it's not a big deal if I'm not. I don't really have much going now. Reen answers without moving her eyes from her work in progress, The tone of her voice is neither the polite kind expected when talking to a teacher, nor her usual monotone. So I won't need to send a search party if you aren't here. Yes, no thanks. I don't like to party. We can talk later. Good girl. Smiling, the teacher picks up the rest of his papers and makes his way to the door. I glance at the clock above it and then at my watch to double check. They're 3 minutes apart, but nevertheless, the club meeting's time is over. Reen seems intent on staying here to finish her piece while waiting for the teacher. I can't quite imagine what their one-on-one time would be like. Would they actually discuss anything? Reen is always so subdued in what she says, and when she does say something, it's difficult to understand what she's talking about. Maybe Nomiya just talks endlessly like he does at club meetings, letting Reen absorb what she will from his infinite well of art knowledge. Like a sunflower. No, damn it, yawning. 21 minutes. I made it 21 minutes today. I have got to stop playing things that are this relaxing. Letting Reen absorb what she will from his infinite well of art knowledge, like a sunflower turning to face the glowing sun. Do you mind if I stay? I thought maybe I'd give watercolors another try. I blurt out the excuse sort of accidentally, embarrassing myself. Reen doesn't take her eyes off her painting. Okay. I shift around in my chair, then get to fetching a cup of water, brushes, colors, and some papers. The sound of my footsteps invades the still afternoon air. Before starting, I try to recall what the teacher told us, an important philosophy of the medium. Working with watercolors means more working with water than working with color. I never thought about that. Wish someone had told me that when I was in elementary school playing with watercolors. I try to keep that in mind and dip my tiny sable brush into the water cup. I'm mixing yellow and blue, trying to capture the sunlit treetops outside of the window. The sun is low, so the yellows are more pronounced and everything looks darker. I still can't quite connect what I see with what my hand does with the paints, but it's a passable attempt for my level. After a while, I start losing my focus and move the paper aside, deciding to watch Reen work for a while instead. That little while stretches first into a long while, then into a really long while. Reen paints, her entire being fully concentrated on the brush between her slender toes, and the painting coming to life, one stroke at a time. She seems determined, and yet at the same time relaxed, effortlessly moving the brush around, never hesitating. Colors meet and part, mix and cover each other on the canvas, bending to her quiet will. I don't know anything about composition, structure, or any of that stuff, but I really like Reen's paintings. I like how she looks when she paints. As usual, the silence between us compels me to speak rather than merely wait for her to open up. She might end up saying nothing at all. Do you mind if we talk? I don't mind. I kinda wanted to ask more about why you get so weird about this thing the teacher wants to arrange for you. Reen picks up a tube of paint and squeezes it between her toes on a palette, almost as easily as someone with opposable thumbs would. Taking up a brush again, she replies, "A lot of things, and some not things. Unthings. I don't think that's a word. Do you want to talk about it? I try to reach out to her clumsily, ignoring the embarrassing feeling of awkwardness. Reen keeps her focus on the painting, spreading more and more paint on the canvas, her lips forming a perfectly straight line as she concentrates on the job. Not really. Talking is hard. I mean, it's not hard. I'm talking even now. But saying the right things is really hard for me. No matter what, I just can't say the things I want. Is that why you're into visual media? Is it not so much that you just stumbled your way into a weird way of speaking, but just that you don't know how to properly express your thoughts? I think I'm getting more of an inkling and understanding of you, Reen. That sounds weird. And, of course, Hisao is not sharing my insights. It's true. I say all kinds of things that I don't really mean all the time. And sometimes I forget words, and then I use the wrong words. I even come up with new words for things that already have some. That's the worst thing. I'm more of a writer in my artistic expression, so to me, every single one of those is just a positive. I get really nervous, and everything comes out a mess, and even I don't really understand what I want to say. I think there's something wrong with me that makes me like this. Remember when I said I can only think of 4 things at the same time? I mean, most people have trouble trying to remember more than 5 separate digits at a time, so, short of a mnemonic. I nod wordlessly. It's not really 4. I mean, it is 4, but everything else is also there, kind of in the background. Like being at an amusement park and a beehive at the same time. But that's not the point. I used to do better. Like 6 or 7 things. I think so, at least. I feel like I'm becoming dumber. I think everyone has times when they feel like they can't say the right things. But it's there all the time. Stronger and deeper. Yes, deeper is a good word. I like that word. Deeper. It's that feeling of being underwater. Maybe it's just art. The more I paint, the more words I forget. Maybe at some point I will forget how to speak completely. Oh, dang it. Second yawn. Okay, well, at least I made it almost 8 minutes between first and second yawn. That's progress. Possibly. Maybe I haven't actually been keeping track. It feels like I'm slowly forgetting everything. Do you remember what you thought about things 3 or 4 years ago? I don't. Most things? For me, no. Not specifically in any significant detail. I remember the things that I've enjoyed. I remember the things that I haven't enjoyed. I remember those things that made me feel proud or embarrassed. But it's the feelings that I remember. I can't particularly say I remember every thought that led up to those feelings. A long pause ensues, during which time seems to bend itself around, almost tying itself into a knot. Damn it, third yawn 2 minutes after the last one. Ugh. Alright, forget all that crap about improving. I don't think I've ever heard Reen talk this earnestly and for so long about anything before. It's like I'm fading away from the world. Reen's foot has stopped its work on the canvas, and she is staring at her painting, unmoving, as if gazing at some faraway horizon. Sunlight briefly glints in the corner of her onyx eyes. Something floats up to the top layer of Reen's being, and she lets out a long breath. Then she blinks, and it's gone. Paintings stay behind. When I look at my old things, I remember what I was thinking back when I made them. Okay, the paintings are your mnemonics. Understandable. They make me feel like I can be with all the past me's when I was a different me. I guess they are the proof of my existence. She uses the exact same words Nomiya used when he spoke to us of the nature of art. I didn't think Reen was paying attention back then. I wonder if she was listening, or whether she had heard the same passionate speech from Nomiya before. Either way, I feel overwhelmed. Boy, are you complicated. I would have taken up writing a diary. Her eyes quickly flicker to my direction, and then back to the painting. But she doesn't pick up the brush anymore. That's a great idea. Why didn't I ever think of that? Are you being sarcastic? What's sarcasm? Oh, Reen, You are endlessly fascinating, Reen. I think that's why I was so interested to do your route. You fascinate me. And I think you will continue to fascinate me on the next one.